Hi guys, once again this is me, Tim. I'm using a Raspberry Pi to control two little stepper motors in lieu of using Lego actuators. I'm actually going to rebuild this little robotic arm, but you get the point. I'm using GPIO 0 and GUI 0 modules from Raspberry. So I'm just going to control two motors here with the sliders on the GUI. This GUI right here. So this is just a, basic version. Basic. Here, let me wipe my screen. Basic of just controlling two stepper motors with sliders. So here you go. I'm gonna grab on one of them. You can hear the motors moving, and it's actually the reason why I'm going to rebuild this is because I'm not getting a lot of movement out of here, so I think I'm just going to try a different tack. Let me try the other slider, and you can see a little bit of movement, but like I said, I'm going to do away with the actuators and just use the stepper motors just for a little bit more mobility. So you can see I'm swiping back and forth on I'm just using the mouse there and just swiping back and forth on the Raspberry desktop there. With these little 3-wire steppers, just remember that red is your positive, obviously brown is your negative, and your orange is your signal. So that's the controlling the motor. The other is just power. And a note too on these Raspberry Pis: don't try to run the servo off the 3 or 5 volt pins. It's just best used to use the external power supply. In this case, I'm just using 2 AA batteries as DC power supply that is just powering the motor, and then the signal is actually going straight to the Raspberry. When doing these external power supplies, make sure that the negative is also tied to your ground on your Raspberry Pi, otherwise it won't work. So you're going to have your battery going on the red wire for your stepper motor. You're going to have the brown wire going to the negative on the battery pack, and that negative wire is going to tie to your ground on the Raspberry, and then finally your orange lead from your motor is going to go onto the pin you designate, your GPIO pin that you designate to use as a signal line. So that's just pretty much a basic hardware rundown. And just Google GUI 0 library and GPIO libraries, and it took me a little while to figure out what's what and what works and what doesn't, but that's just the whole point of making things work and a little bit of programming. So I'm doing this on my free time, hobby time. I'm not a programmer or a web developer as a job, but I do this on the side, and just having fun, and like to make a functioning Lego factory using a little bit of AI down the road. It's going to be sorting Legos by color and shape into little containers. It's going to take me a little while, and so that's pretty much the rundown. It's kind of gutted out right now. I took the conveyors out. My cat's sleeping on the floor. I raised the conveyors up to give more floor space on the ground, because I want to automate another um, robotic arm, and I'm thinking about putting him on a conveyor belt, which will be also, well, it would be on a scissor lift, which would be on a conveyor belt moving back and forth as a sorter and a grabber, just to store, pick up containers and put them on a shelf, pretty much. So all this is conveyors. If you look closely here, I'm going to have a little, I have little servos that are going to be controlling objects as the conveyor is going. It's actually going to be flowing this way and dumping it out in a container. And I even have, if you look closely here, I have three gates right here, and each gate has a green and red LED on there, so to signal open and close and whatnot. And I have my second Raspberry Pi over here, which is going to be wired to everything. I had to get a little bit comfortable with the stepper motors before I jumped to this point. I have done, if you go on my YouTube page, I have done a program where I was using a game controller, a wired game controller, to control LEDs and printouts, and like to build up to the point where I could manually use the game controller to manually control some of the robotic arms and stepper motors that, something you would see like on a space station, or if you ever watch Ad Astra, he had the robotic arm in the beginning of the movie. So yeah, that's where I'm getting to. Just if you guys didn't know what a scissor lift is, it's pretty much this guy. I mentioned it before. You see them in the workplace all the time. It's just it raises up with scaffolding. I'll put an actuator on here to mimic that, but I'm going to put that robotic arm down there on this scissor lift, and that scissor lift is going to be mounted to a conveyor to go back and forth and be able to store Lego shipping containers, like what I have here on this rack here. Down the road, I'll have a Raspberry driven or Arduino driven forklift. Also, I'm going to have this guy. This guy is a line follower, and he follows the black line. So up on these racks here, I'm going to have this little guy travel back and forth on a black line using some flat pieces. So it's going to be pretty interesting down the road. And just doing this as a hobby, I've always played with Legos as a kid, and I always dreamed of automating my Legos to the point where I didn't have to manually control, but I'd still like to have that feature to manually control some stuff, just an interaction, and even maybe teach a robotic arm by manually controlling it first, and a robotic arm reads my movements and records them, and then goes ahead and duplicates that same movement. So that would be pretty interesting. Right here I have right now there's just LEDs. This is just a starting point of a grinder. This will just be in the background. This will be spinning, but it probably, I don't really need to be grinding any Legos or anything like that. But it'd be cool to something to dump off the conveyors, and I thought it'd be pretty neat aesthetics there. This would be a drill press. Of course, it's not really drilling anything. But I think it'd be just cool to have some movement in the background. Actually, you see that this spins the drill head, and this lowers and raises the drill head. So if I put some little motors on there and control that, would be kind of a neat thing in the background too. And I have a I'm not sure what I want to do with this, as a robotic arm or as a something like to pick up objects. I think it'd be kind of redundant with the robotic arm I have down there. It does move up and down with the gears. I think you see it goes up and down, and very slow, but it'll work. I was going to put some dowels on there so we can go across the dowels instead of using the the railing there, because the railing does get a little wobbly. And I was going to use a motor on a run on a chain or a belt back and forth. This guy would also be in the background as just a circular saw, not really cutting anything, but just spinning and moving up and down. So that'd be in the background too. This is going to be a pretty lengthy project, but hopefully get it all done and make this thing fully automated. I think it'd be completely awesome. All right, you guys have a nice night.